Have you ever gone to start your snowblower at the beginning of the winter season? It sounds like that. So today we're going to be replacing the carburetor on a Craftsman Snow Blower. My mom called me up and asked if I would take a look at her snowblower. In Ohio, we have had pretty mild winters the last 3 years, and the snowblower is about 5 years old. And she went to go start it to plow her driveway, and it wouldn't start. I kind of had my assumptions when she was explaining it to me what was wrong. She had already went to the store and got a new spark plug and put it in there, and that didn't do anything. And she checked the air filter and it was clean. So my assumption was that after it sitting so long, the gasoline inside the carburetor had just become all gummed up and stopped the fuel from flowing. So I got on Amazon and was going to see if I could get that rebuild kit on there. And whilst I was there, I found a it was like $12 and some change for a whole new carburetor, which was amazing to me. I'm sure it's some Chinese knockoff or whatever, but we are going to throw that on there this evening and hope everything works out all right. So that's what this video is about, is how to replace a carburetor on a Craftsman Snow Blower. So first thing is I wanted to pick it up and put it on the bench to have to work on it more easily. So this is that snowblower up close, all switches and whatnot. Interestingly enough, the carburetor is right there. That is the bowl that I'm saying has a little bit of a leak to it from up in that gasket area where it seals. It's just old from time. It's cracked up and but anyways, the only way to get to that carburetor is to remove this cover. The only way to remove this cover is to remove that cover. The only way to remove that cover is to remove this big cover. So that is part of the process that is going to start now. This handle bit right here is going to come off next because this other bigger plastic piece won't come off with that handle on. There's no screws or anything holding it on. It's just these like strange clips you gotta pop out. See how close I can keep you guys in here whilst I'm trying to replace it or pull it off. Yeah, I'm gonna need two hands. So now with that removed, I can start pulling off this big plastic piece. It's just a matter of several screws around the body. I should probably be talking at you more, but I don't talk in real life that much either, so maybe as I get more comfortable, I will. Or if I had a beer or two, that would probably do it as well. So there's the plastic cover off. If you want to come in closer and see what we got now. Again, carburetor down here. This cover is going to need to come off, which unfortunately means this cover needs to come off first. and the fuel tank. The fuel tank's gonna have to come out of the way. Okay, fuel tank is off and out of the room because it stinks so bad. Onward to this top cover. There you go. And actually those two that I just took off are the main carburetor bolts, but they also hold this cover on and several other things. I'm calling these two that I'm taking off right now air cleaner bolts, which there's really not a filter to speak of on this thing, so I'm not sure how much air it's cleaning, but it's directing the air to the carburetor where it needs to go. And the tube for the primer, which it's pretty sweet, came with the new carburetor, came with a new primer and the tube for it. There's that air cleaner piece. Somebody else had been working on it before. One of the cover nut holders is broke, but it's not that big of a deal. The electrical connector for the kill switch is what I'm taking off right now. Move that out of the way. These switch covers have to come off. That's for the choke, and then this one's like idle speed. Right, this just pulls off here now. Yep. So there's the pretty cover. And I think you guys can see that okay. We are to the carburetor itself right here. This is gonna come off first. It's the choke lever, which this was that big knob that was on there. Just attach this to this linkage, and then that linkage, if you can see that, opens and closes this, which just shuts off a little bit of the air. So that's full choke on, that's full choke off. So this is the same as any small engine. When that choke is fully closed, it's restricting some of the airflow, which allows more gas into the engine, which makes it start up more easily in cold conditions. And then as the engine's running, you go ahead and open it up slowly and just let it run at full bore. So yeah, we took the fuel line off of the primer, and we'll also take it off of the carburetor here. It's like I said, we got a new one. And then the only other pieces that are still hooked is the I'll bring you guys in here good if you can see it. This is the spring for the throttle linkage, and then this here is the throttle linkage itself. Popping that out, and then voila, there's the carburetor. We're gonna need to pop that fuel line off, swap it over to the new carburetor. As I leak stinky gas all over the place. Which, I mean, normal gas stinks, and as a mechanic I'm used to that, but that old, been in there for 3 years gas is a whole different ball game. That stuff just stinks really super bad. Okay, so old carburetor, is this gonna match up with the new one? Let me go grab that and we'll set them side by side and see what they look like. So here are the two side by side, which everything looks very similar, which is good news for us. Yeah. So, let me take apart this carburetor just to show you what I found before. The one bolt on the bottom is a drain for the carburetor, so that you can store it over the winter, which my mom didn't do. It would be that you either A, run it out of gas completely before you park it, or B, you can drain it from this drain tube and just empty out the whole tank and whatever's in the carburetor through here. And then this other bolt removes the, oh, it's on there tight, removes the bowl itself. Yeah, so we will remove that bolt. And then, so this is what I was talking about that I tried to fix on it earlier, that the seal ended up being too flat and wouldn't reseal with the bowl on it. But anyways, this carburetor, I just pulled this pin out, and then you can pull the float out, and the needle, if you can see it, right there, it goes into that seat, and that's what allows the fuel to travel through here and into the bowl, and then it comes up through there and mixes into the carburetor with the air, and that's what it runs off of. But initially how it comes into the carburetor is through this needle and seat. We have this float, and that needle was just stuck inside there when I initially started working on the carburetor. So you'll see this is how it sits when it's on the unit, and it would be allowing gas in there right now, and then as the fuel comes in, this goes up and raises, and then that needle will close off the flow of the gas through here once the float rises. And then as it uses fuel, this drops, and it just keeps opening and closing to allow more fuel in to the carburetor to keep the engine running. But yeah, now we're back to this carburetor, and there are some various gaskets that I'm going to replace as well, so you can just watch along as we work on it. That's the first gasket I'm going to try to get off there. The kit came with some random gaskets. I believe carburetors probably works on multiple different machines, so they give you multiple gaskets. Oh, sweet. Came off without tearing up a whole bunch. That's always good. So I'm gonna try to match this guy up with another one. And there she is. I think. Yeah. So go right back on. And then we will first attach the fuel line. carburetor back in place. Let's get the linkages back on. This is that throttle linkage that we took off. And the return spring for the throttle linkage. And then, what else did we take on and off? What was the order there? It was the choke. Linkage goes back on. So far, so good. Okay, and then, as I said, we got new line for that primer. So I'll shove that on there. I believe we can replace the whole primer itself with this new unit. Not that this one's bad that's on here, but I figure if we got a new one anyways, might as well throw it on there if it's easy enough. It looks like there are just a couple simple clips in the back of it. I'll just let you pop it off. Probably horrible for viewership, but there she is. There, old one's off. A lot of times when these go bad, they will, I don't know if you can hear that, they'll fill up with fuel inside of them. That one's not there yet, but like I said, got a new one, might as well shove it in. And break both of the clips at the same time on the new one. So that we can put the old one back in and that doesn't happen. Huh. Did you see that? I just tried to snap it in and that's the new one. Two of the retaining clips popped right off. So I am glad that the old one is not broke because we're going to be reusing that. Yeah, you're here for everything, good and bad. Okay, back to it. We will put this cover back on. I guess I should have showed you guys how that primer works. Basically, it just shoves a little bit of gas like right at where the carburetor and the cylinder head meet, so that the choke cuts off some air to help it start. But then the primer like doubles that up by shoving some extra gas in right where it needs to be for that cold start. We'll get her next time. But yeah, we can continue just to keep bolting things back up here. going to go grab the gas can, make sure it's emptied out all the way before I put it back on this time, because that stuff just stinks so bad. I just want to get rid of it all. And I believe I have some regular new gas here to put back in it. All right, most of the gas is drained out of it. Let's put this back on. Fancy mechanic trick. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it before, but if you have to shove a socket into somewhere that's tough to get to, you could take your socket and a little piece of paper towel, shove your bolt into it, and it holds it in there. Some old timer showed me that a long time ago as I was just getting into being a mechanic. It was very helpful, and I've used it a lot of times. Before I go putting the big cover back on, let's put some gas in it and make sure there's no leaks, and maybe even see if she fires up, so I don't have to take it back off later if something's wrong. So the last time I worked on it, like I said, that bowl gasket right here would have a very slow drip to it. So everything feels really dry right now, so that's good. I say let's go ahead and drop it on the ground and give a pull and see what happens. Speed up a little bit, choke off a little bit. So, you can see my breath now. I got the door open because it stinks. But yeah, that took, I didn't count how many pulls, like 10. I was hoping for 2. But it was really my own folly that I was just underestimating how well the heater was working in this garage, because it still felt cold in here to me, but it's like 60 some degrees and I had the choke on full blast. So I don't know if you saw it or not, but what finally made it start was I went down there and turned the choke off like about halfway, and that made it fire right up. So when it was making those popping sounds, again, it was just me screwing around with the idle speed and the choke. And after it finally warmed up, I had the choke off all the way and had the throttle up all the way, and it sounded great. It's supposed to have a big snowstorm tomorrow, so that'll be the true test of how well this thing works. It worked super well the other day, even though it had that little leak in the bowl of the carburetor. But it doesn't seem to be leaking now. I'm gonna let it sit for like 20 minutes or whatever and make sure everything's super dry, and then go ahead and put that cover back on and wait for the snowstorm to happen tomorrow. I'll go ahead and just drive it over to my mom's house later on this evening and just hope for the best as far as the leak and the performance goes, but this should do just fine. So, yeah, there you go. Almost any snowblower and small engine is going to be very similar. With it sitting for a long time, my best advice as your mechanic and master of none would be to, if you're whatever the small engine device is, a lawnmower or whatever, if you're expecting it to sit for several months or even a month or longer, somehow get the gas out of the carburetor. So like on my lawnmower, my Dominator, as my son and I call it, I ran my last mow, and then I just took some pinch-off pliers, pinch-off pliers, not something that's sharp that's going to cut the fuel line, but just enough to pinch off the fuel from it going into the carburetor anymore. Fire the mower up and just let it run until it dies, and then that will be all of the fuel out of the carburetor, and it's just good to go. Just leave the pliers on there with the fuel pinched off until the next season when you're going to be using it, and then pull the pliers off and it should fire right up. Specifically for a snow blower, that's a really good idea, because like I said, the last 3 years in Ohio, the winters haven't been very bad at all, so they hadn't used it at all. Now just went to try to use it this year and it just wouldn't fire up, and that's a bummer. A lot of people just throw their stuff away and get a new unit. I don't know how much that Craftsman Snow Blower costs brand new. I guess $300-$400 or something. So, and who knows how many hours it has on it. It looks like it's brand new, so I would say they probably only have a couple hours on it. It would suck to throw that away and have to go spin that all over again. And it's awesome that whatever company this is that sold this carburetor for $13, that they sell them for $13. So now you can fix yours. I know this video probably wasn't the best video you've seen on YouTube. I'm just getting started in it. Hopefully the quality will improve as time goes on. But please like and subscribe so that you can see more fix-it content. I'm not sure entirely what and all is going to be fixed. I think that there is a paint sprayer maybe coming our way. I may end up getting underneath my house and doing some leveling, because there's some sinking spots, which that'd be a fun video. It won't be a fun project, but it'll be a fun video to watch me suffer through it. I've got a coat rack that I'm working on that'll be posted shortly. I've got some wooden cottage shutters that we made for the front of the house. So we'll be hanging those up, and other fun projects if you want. I just love fixing stuff. I don't know what it is. I enjoy it. So if you have specific desires of things you'd like to see fixed, I can work on trying that. But otherwise, cars, lawnmowers, drywall. We'll be doing all kinds of projects on this channel, so stay tuned.